Can we shift, kind of talk about transition stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Has you made this decision to go into the med board process and leave active duty? What kinds of things were running through your head emotionally? Can you kind of share with state of mind at that time?
Absolutely. It was the most humbling experience to date. Other than saying, raising the flag and saying that I needed help with my drinking that I was unable to control. Saying that I'm going to elect to get out now was a huge obstacle for me to mentally overcome, especially with all the other things that were on my plate at the time. You know, I'm early on in my recovery from substance abuse, as well as transitioning into a new lifestyle. I have a wife and 3 children, and you know, I'm an infantry guy. You know, I don't have a college degree. I've been pulling triggers my entire life. You know, what the hell am I going to do now? You know, what am I going to do now? But I tell you what, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything, and I've learned a lot of good stuff from a lot of great people throughout this process. You know, Carl, you've been a huge help to me throughout this process. I remember talking to you months back, over a year and a half ago.
Been a while.
Sitting down with you initially, and you know, you got to find people out there that are willing to help. Okay, but your mindset is everything. If you go into the transition process thinking that someone's going to walk your hand through every little step of the way and show you everything you need to do, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Get rid of that sense of entitlement. All right, get rid of that sense of entitlement. And then also, if you're having problems with drinking, when all those other stressors start getting piled on during the transition process, it's going to be a very difficult time for you. Also, something else that helped me out was getting a routine. I had to get a routine.
A routine to replace the other routine.
Physical fitness part. Yeah, replace the other routine. Make physical fitness part of your routine. Do what you did in the Army that made you successful when you get out, and you'll be successful.
Right. There's a proverb. I don't remember exactly where it came from. Somebody attributed it to a martial arts teacher, but it said that a sheet of paper stacked one at a time, sheets of paper stacked one at a time will eventually reach the sky. And when you're talking about your routine, getting in, especially in making sure you include physical fitness as part of that daily routine, that's putting those sheets of paper on that stack. And those kind of things are going to help you have a longer life, be healthier and happier, you know, during that longer life. But if you start from a position of having to overcome substance abuse, or if you keep bouncing back into that, you're taking sheets of paper off of that pile and putting them on a different pile. And it's a lifelong commitment that you have to make to your physical and your emotional health. And I think people that make that commitment long-term, they're going to reap the benefits of that.
Absolutely.
Name a couple of the biggest lessons that you learned through your transition as you went, because you were able to, as you were on your way out going through the med board process, you were able to take advantage of some programs and kind of explore maybe some possibilities for work.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going out there and finding organizations and people that are there to help. There's so many out there that are there to help. One of them for me, and this goes for everybody in the community, the SOCOM Care Coalition. Can't speak highly enough about them.
Yep.
You know, I cannot talk highly enough about them. And I'm going to talk about the internship in a minute, but you know, even just real quick, it was you know, about 2 months after I transitioned out. You know, I'm sitting around, and it's been an emotional roller coaster for me with some things. You know, and I hadn't talked to any Ranger in a while, and I hadn't even realized it. But I got a call from one of the fellows at the SOCOM Care Coalition that replaced or works right there next to Ray Castillo. His name's James Fountain. He reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm a SOCOM Care Coalition rep that's assigned to you, and I want to let you know I'm here if you need anything." Man, you don't know how good that felt. And I've told them that many a times. But, you know, again, in the Army, you got your Ranger buddies. All right? I'm a civilian now. I don't want Ranger buddies other than the Ranger buddies I've established. I was in. On the outside, you need to be looking for accountability partners. you know, and maybe that was a Ranger buddy, you know, but you need to be looking at accountability partners and mentors instead of Ranger buddies and battle buddies. I have an accountability partner now that assigned himself as my accountability partner. And I love him to death for it, and he's been great for me. So again, it's about mindset, and it's about surrounding yourself with the right people.
One of the things that I've seen from a number of veterans that I've spoken to, some special operations veterans, some non-special operations, there's a tendency to avoid the community as you transition because you might be embarrassed about, you know, somebody might say, well, hell, you were a sergeant first class promotable about to take a Ranger company. What happened? And you don't want to go through that story. So you avoid the community when the reality is those in the community that are out there can be very beneficial, whether they're an accountability partner, Ranger buddy, or whatever.
Absolutely. I experienced that. I experienced that very thing. Yeah, I went through a little bit of embarrassment, I guess you could say, when I left, based on the. I think I was a pretty high performer my entire military career. Not really the way I would have wanted to go out, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, I'm very proud of everything that happened throughout my military career, and by no means am I ashamed of anything that I did while I was in the service. That includes enrolling into ASAP, and that includes enrolling into that program. Because again, I feel that if I had not gone and gotten help, I would be in a much worse place right now in my life. On the side of feeling that you're looked down upon, you're out, you know, maybe feeling outcasted after leaving the unit. I went through that. I think everybody goes through that at some point. A little bit of guilt, a little bit of, you know, guilt, feeling bad that your buddies are still out doing it, and you're not anymore. That's okay, because everyone will transition at one point. So